Luo-chan traveled to the world of Hokage and became a member of the Uchiha family. With the passage, he obtained a check.in system. As long as you clock in, you can become stronger. No matter where you clock in, you will have an opportunity to receive rewards. Ding! Sign in on the battlefield of the third battle and receive a reward of Royal Sword Intention. Ding! Sign in at Yao Lamian Noodle Store and get the reward Mirror Talent. So, on the battlefield of the Third World War, a young man holding a sword of royal power appeared. With a light and agile wave, the mountain collapsed, the earth cracked, and the sun and moon faded. He wants to change the future of Hokage with one person. With him alone, that's enough. Keywords of the novel. Man in Kiba. I have an invincible clock-in system without pop-ups, Man in Kiba. I have an invincible clock-in system. Complete download of TXT, Man in Kiba. I have an invincible clock-in system. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1, Brothers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1, Brothers would leaves last for 46 years. The smoke of war rose up in an instant. The ongoing years of struggle among the five major powers, led by the country of fire, have plunged the entire Hokage continent into a gray haze. The battlefield of the Third War is located in a dense forest less than 10 kilometers away from the front-line battlefield, which has not yet been affected by the war. A young man with a dark red cloak sat quietly cross-legged by a lake. He sat there quietly, deaf to the roar of war in the distance. No one knows why he is here, nor does anyone know what he is going to do next. Just the wooden leaf protector pinned to his dark red cloak proves that this young man, who is only 14 years old, is a ninja of wooden leaves. At this moment, it is the time when the three battles are fiercely fought. Every country is putting in a lot of effort to understand their strategic defenses. Once they do, they will launch a large-scale invasion of the weak areas of their strategic layout. In this way, the country will save the vast majority of its troops. The competition between Mai and the Kingdom of Sand has lasted for several years. In order to prepare this strategic defense plan for the southeast battlefield of the Kingdom of Sand, Uchiha Polo-chan has been sitting here waiting for a full 3 hours. From time to time, there was a shaking sound in the surrounding trees. As the trees swayed, many leaves trembled and swirled in the cool breeze before slowly falling to the ground. Yuji Baluachen frowned uncontrollably and said, "Kai, don't wander around. With the current situation, no matter how anxious you are, it won't help." With a cold voice, the surrounding woods suddenly fell silent. Then, under the intense disturbance of the nearby bushes, the green practicing outfit Might Kai anxiously rushed out of the woods. It's almost midnight now, why hasn't Kakashi sent over the strategic deployment map yet? Could they have already had an accident? You use your riding wheel to see the situation quickly, said Might Kai, an ant as anxious as a hot pot. No, I'll go pick them up. You wait here for the deployment map. As he spoke, Might Kai became increasingly restless. No way. As soon as Yuji Baluachen said this, he immediately rejected it, and his face, which had been hidden in his cloak, finally lifted up. Our task is to wait for Kakashi to send the strategic defense map and safely bring it back to Kiba. But, Kai, you have to believe in my eyes, believe in Kakashi. Yuji Baluachen smiled faintly, this guy doesn't die so easily. Might Kai nodded and took a deep look at the young man in front of him, his suspended heart slowly letting go. Yeah, you have to trust that guy Kakashi, after all, he's a comrade who wins more than loses against his opponents. Staring deeply at this young man, Might Kai felt a mix of old age flavors in his heart. Unexpectedly, Luo Chen was willing to participate in this operation. He let out a faint sigh. Yuji Baluachen, this guy, is still so seasoned. Yes, that's right. The young man in front of him, like Kakashi, is the object he has been chasing. His name is Yuji Baluachen, and he is of the same age as himself, one of the two great geniuses of Kiba. Another genius is Chimu Kakashi. Yuji Baluachen, this guy, has shown a talent far beyond human reach since he came into contact with the ninja world. In just half a day, he learned all the ninja techniques from the ninja school. It almost startled his chin. In the same year, while he was working hard to train and advance towards becoming a physical ninja, Luo Chen had already passed the ninja assessment and became the youngest ninja in Kiba village. At that time, Yuji Baluachen gained a great reputation, and no one among the younger generation could surpass him. The name of genius is unmatched by anyone. 3 generations of Fire Shadow, 8 Flying Sun Slayer even personally met him for this, hoping to bring him under his command. Even Orochimaru and Tanzong are constantly staring at the fat around their mouths. But unexpectedly, just after Yuji Baluachen endured his promotion, he seemed to have changed his personality, changed his previous flamboyant demeanor, and became extremely calm. To his shock, he refused everyone's invitation. At that time, due to the already unfriendly relationship between Uchiha and the high-ranking officials of Kiba, Uchiha clan leader and Uchiha Fuyue were even more delighted. In order to protect the future elite of the Uchiha clan, Uchiha Fuyue is even more dominant and exclusive of the public opinion. Unexpectedly, Yuji Baluachen did not fall into the hands of any of them. But from then on, Yuji Baluachen became the coveted fat of the high-ranking officials in Mai. In order to dispel the idea of high-level management in Kiba, Yukibo Fuyue placed Yukibo Luochen in the Yukibo Guard and personally taught him. That day, it shocked many big shots. Now, years have passed, and with the passage of time, they have all become teenagers. Himeki and Kakashi often fought on the battlefield of the Third War. Everyone has remarkable military achievements. Especially Kakashi, as a disciple of the Golden Shining Wood Leaf and the Wave Wind Water Gate, holds a particularly high position. But on the day Yuji Baluachen made his choice, he gradually disappeared from everyone's sight. No one knows what he is doing every day, even if they see him, they only see him walking alone on the streets of my village. No one knows how terrifying the strength of Yuji Baluachen has risen after 10 years have passed. Yuji Baluachen, the name of this genius, gradually became a legend in Mai, becoming a joke. This time, Yuji Baluachen has come, and it is also the first time in the past decade that Yuji Baluachen has taken on a mission. This is also what surprised Meki. On weekdays, I would only be able to find such a strange person who can only squat in the Uchiha tribe's territory. How could he be willing to take on such a high-risk mission? It's just a miracle. In these 10 years, Yuji Baluachen has not obtained the title of Shangren, nor has he completed any tasks, and he has not even missed a few times. However, the superior entrusted the extremely important task of strategic deployment map to Yuji Baluachen and appointed him as the team leader. Perhaps others will sigh and disdain this. But only Meki knew that the guy in front of him, after 10 years, his strength must be as profound and unfathomable as before. Sign in for 1,000 years, I was seized by the holy maiden of the demon gate. I have never seen such a great fantasy text before. A very beautiful book, everyone must go and read it. Outsider influencer account, quality assurance, absolutely reliable. Stop talking, brothers. I'll go read a book first. Wishing everyone a happy 2022, end of this chapter. Chapter 2, Today Li Bai came to me to recommend books. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2, Today Li Bai came to me to recommend books. Yuji Baluachen sat quietly by the stream, breathing and circulating throughout his body, and the tiny chakras in the air were extracted into his body. Sure enough. The fatal flaw of Yuzibo is that the blue bar is too short. Yuji Baluachen sighed in his heart. Now he needs to maintain his best physical condition at all times to prepare for future battles. After all, there is still a long way to go from here to Mai. It's almost time. Luochen turned his head and glanced at Maikai beside him. Seeing that he didn't pay attention to himself, he turned around and whispered. System, 3 battles battlefield check.in. With a mechanical sound, a reward panel appeared in Yuji Baoyuechen's mind. Ding! Congratulations on the successful check that IN of the host. Congratulations on the evolution of the left eye of the host's riding will eye into the 3 Goyu, with a 5.7% increase in the template of Royal Sword Intent, and the acquisition of Ninjutsu. Water Escape Great Waterfall Art A. Level. Ding! It has been detected that the host has obtained a new type of ninjutsu. Do you want to check it? Yuji Baoyuechen settled down before slowly speaking, check. That's right. Yuji Baoyuechen is a traveler. I have been in this world for nearly a decade now. When he first traveled here, he thought he was dreaming. Later on, it took him half a year to sort out the memory of this guy, who was the former Uji Baoyuechen, and accept the fact that he had entered this Hokage world. That's why he refused the invitation from the 6th department. Just as he had just sorted out his memories, the golden finger representing the traveler arrived as scheduled. He got a Hokage checked at IN system. Yuji Baoyuechen was a fanatic of systematic stream novels in his past life. Unexpectedly, after crossing over, I discovered the standard golden finger of crossing, which really exists. The function of this system, just like its name, is to clock in at the designated time and place. You can get rich rewards. Improve your own strength. Regular check that IN locations are refreshed once a week. Advanced check that IN locations refresh once a year. Since then, Yuji Baoyuechen has started a check that IN life. With the blessing of the system, he, who was already exceptionally talented, became even more demonic, and today, it is the annual advanced check that IN, which surprised Yuji Baoyuechen. This check that IN has directly enhanced his royal sword spirit by so much, as well as new ninjutsu. Wang Quan's sword intention was obtained by him 10 years ago in the advanced check that IN of the Uchiha clan land. It is his killing move and the trump card in the hands of Uchiha Luochen. The fusion degree between the initial royal sword and him is not high, making it difficult to fully unleash his true strength. For this reason, he often appears out of nowhere, because since the fusion of the sword intent of the royal power with him, the weekly small check that IN will increase a bit of integration, which is pitifully rare, only a few tenths at a time, but the victory lies in accumulation. After this advanced check that IN, his fusion of royal power and sword spirit finally exceeded half, reaching 51.3%. What does this mean? It means that with the sword of heaven and earth, the power of the royal sword can be unleashed to half. How terrifying it should be. Now he can always feel that his physical fitness is constantly improving, and a sense of righteousness is sweeping through his body. Yuji Baoyuechen stared intently at the data panel in his mind. Water Escape. Great Waterfall Technique. This technique belongs to the Water Escape type attack type A. Level Ninja. Chakra gathers behind his throat and sprays a huge water ball forward from his mouth to attack the enemy. I didn't expect to master water ninjutsu during this trip. With a faint glance at the anxious Might Kai beside him, Yuji Baoyuechen's heart became even more stable, and he chuckled lightly. It seems that this trip has been stable. Luochen, can you? Here we go. While Might Kai was anxiously waiting, Yuji Baoyuechen's face suddenly changed and he interrupted. As he spoke, there was a dangerous curve on the corner of his mouth. There are still quite a few people coming. As soon as the words fell, there was a sudden sound, and a painless bullet shot out from the depths of the forest shadow only to reach Might Kai's eyes in an instant. Yuji Baoyuechen's face remained unchanged, his fingers flicked lightly. The sword in his sleeve collided head-on with the surging Kuwu, changing its trajectory of movement. The painless piece, with no remaining strength, shot straight into the nearby tree and disappeared without a trace. Might Kai swallowed and foamed. So fast. If it weren't for Yuji Baoyuechen's help just now, with his careless personality, he would have turned into a corpse. Then, a slender figure emerged, and a white-haired boy leaned on a samurai sword inserted into the ground, panting heavily. It's exactly Kakashi. So many people bullying one person doesn't seem like the kind of tolerance that your country deserves. Yuji Baluachen slowly gasped for his turbid breath and sneered. A gloomy laughter pierced through the trees in the distance. Following the sound, dozens of ninjas from Naruto village stood tall in the trees. 4 upper ninjas, 8 middle ninjas under the cloak, Yuji Baluachen's Sharingan quietly gazed at the chakras inside these human bodies. The Kingdom of Sand is really a big move. It's just a matter of tracking down an intelligence officer and using such force. Both Kakashi and Metki's faces darkened, and their bodies instinctively stood up. What's the use of having 2 more? Both will die. On the battlefield, who would be fair and on point one with you? As he spoke, Shanren saw Yuji Baluachen sitting beside him as if nothing had happened, and his heart couldn't help but rage. Are all the ninjas in Kiba so arrogant? Forget it, I'll see you off today. The leader, with a cold voice, clearly has a clear chance of winning the upcoming battle. As he spoke, his tone increased, and a handle in his sleeve flew out, heading straight for Kakashi. End of this chapter. Chapter 3, I refused on the spot. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3, I refused on the spot. My village. A thin and frail young man was jumping on the colorful houses of the wooden leaves, coming at lightning speed. With just a few steps of jumping, he had already crossed 100 meters and entered the Hokage building. Holding onto the cat mask, Yujibwa gently knocked on the office door. Enter. A somewhat old but strong voice sounded. Yuzhibo stopped water and pushed the door in. In the empty Huiying office, beside the desk, an old man with a low figure and white hair turned his back to him and looked down at all aspects of the leaves through the huge French window in front of him. On the distant Huiying rock, his face was imprinted in the 3rd place and admired by thousands of people. That's right, the old man in front of Yuzhibo Jishue is the current 3rd generation Hokage of Kiba village, known as a ninja professor and hailed as the strongest Hokage in Kiba's history. He is known as the monkey flying sun slaying. 3rd generation adults, you have something to do with me. Yuzhibo Jishue slowly took off his cat mask, bowed forward, and spoke. There's something going on. Monkey flying sun / turned around and pondered, what is your relationship with Uzi Baluachen in the family? Luo Chen. Yujibwa was taken aback for a moment. He can be considered a peer, slightly younger than me. What do you think of his talent? The talent is excellent, but there is no ambition to improve, Yujibwa thought for a moment and said. Yuzhibo Jishue is right. In the Yuzhibo tribe, Yuzhibo Luochen has always played the role of a lazy and unregulated person. Although they have extremely high talents, such people are difficult to achieve great success. I need you to do something. Monkey Flying Sun chuckled and said, you little brother, took on the task of escorting the strategic defense map yesterday. Strategic defense plan. Yujibwa hesitated for a moment, obviously not expecting that Yujibwa Luochen would do such a thing. That's right. I really appreciate this kid. Go test his strength. Let's see, after all these years, does he have the strength to enter the dark side? Ape Flying Sun / finished speaking and took a sip of his snuff bottle, slowly spitting out white smoke from his mouth. He wants to see if this wooden leaf genius has really fallen. Hurry up and hide. Kakashi pushed Might Kai away, and his whole body instantly escaped by more than 10 meters. When struggling to land, Might Kai could clearly see the ancient rune paper tied at its tail. Explosive symbol. Boom. The huge shockwave blasted a deep pit of over 2 meters on the ground, causing the surrounding trees to be swayed and fall with tremendous force, and leaves to fly. No way, the equipment on the opposite side is too advanced. Yuji Baluachen, you take the strategic map and leave first. Kai and I will cover up. Kakashi pushed the strategic plan into the arms of Yuji Baluachen, pondered, and immediately made a decision. He has been running for dozens of miles and has no strength left. At present, he can only rely on this guy Luo Chen for hope. I hope this guy's strength hasn't declined on the side. Might Kai also nodded, with a hint of light green appearing on his body and his clothes moving automatically without wind. Obviously, he has already opened 8 Duanjia gates. Kakashi, we've known each other for a long time, haven't we? Looking at the strategic defense map in his hand, Yuji Baoyuchen suddenly spoke up and asked. Kakashi responded and quickly turned around to urge, let's go. Yeah, hurry up. You have the strongest strength here, and you have the most hope. Might Kai immediately agreed, and the whole person came over to protect Yuji Baoyuchen. If you were to evacuate with the strategic map today, would you be leaving? Yuji Baoyuchen suddenly said. Nonsense. Kakashi gritted his teeth, of course I will. What if the cost is the lives of both of us? Kakashi suddenly fell silent, turned around to take a look at Yuji Baoyuchen, but saw something else in his eyes. He hesitated. This is absolutely not allowed in his dictionary, as the ninja of Kiba should prioritize completing tasks. But under such a choice, he hesitated. You don't have to say it, I already understand. Yuji Baoyuchen smiled and took a step, his arms blocking the two behind him. In his impression, Kakashi's childhood made his personality cold, and even if he sacrificed his companions, he would definitely complete the task. But in fact, it doesn't seem like that. What are you doing? Suddenly, Kakashi and Metki's faces changed, and their words were choked back forcefully. Because on Yuji Baoyuchen, a breath that had never been seen before suddenly burst out, and a sense of majesty suddenly appeared in his heart. At that moment, they seemed to see a young man with long hair, wielding a royal sword and flicking it lightly. It was like a mountain collapsing and the earth shattering, and the sun and moon fading away. Today, both of them have to leave, as I said. A cold voice suddenly rang out in the ears of Shangren. What? Shangren was shocked and pale, because in his field of vision, the figure of Yuji Baoyuchen had already disappeared. So fast. When? Just as Shangren was struggling to defend himself, a resounding sound came from his mind like piercing through the clouds. The sword of heaven and earth, the sword of royal power. End of this chapter. Chapter 4, But I Can't Resist His Charismatic Personality. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4, But I Can't Resist His Charismatic Personality. As soon as he finished speaking, a golden light suddenly lit up behind him. The name Shangren had not even reacted, and before he could even turn around, he was cut in half with a sword. With a thud, the name Shangren shattered and scattered after the golden light disappeared, as if a rain of blood had fallen all around. Boss. The remaining 10 or so ninjas were all shocked and pale. That ninja, however, was only one step away from the elite ninjas in the Kingdom of Sand. Now, how could I be so easily beheaded? Kakashi and Metki have already opened their mouths wide at this time. They all thought that Yuji Baoyuchen's strength would improve, but they didn't expect it to be so strong. Kakashi even has some inferiority complex. Over the past decade, he has been training and learning day and night, going through life and death on the battlefield. Unexpectedly, Yuji Baoyuchen, who used to always suppress his own head, is still suppressing his own head now. Ask yourself, can you do that kind of attack just now? Kakashi admits that he cannot do it. Is this the power of innate talent? Kakashi sighed inwardly. No. I can't just give up like this. When my ninjutsu development is successful, I will definitely be able to achieve the power of his sword. Seeing this sword, Kakashi's eyes suddenly filled with passion. At this moment, Yuji Baoyuchen had quietly disappeared into place. Where are people? The dozen or so ninjas from the Kingdom of Sand standing on a tree branch in the distance were all feeling a chill in their hearts, and a sense of danger arose from their uncontrollable coldness behind them. The danger of knowing but not seeing is the most terrifying. Miso. It's the sound of the sword piercing into the ground. It was emitted 10 meters behind Kakashi and Meki. A golden sword was suddenly inserted into the ground, with a powerful pressure that even resonated with the sound of the sword, shaking in waves. Centered around the sword of royal power, like an emperor, spread like ripples and instantly descended on each of their heads. In everyone's eyes, the golden long sword is infinitely magnified, especially the ancient patterns on it, as if carving the royal power in the divine realm text. Those who are not afraid of death, just go ahead and try. The voice was not loud, but when Yuji Baoyuchen spoke, everyone present trembled together. The dozen or so ninjas looked at each other, and then suddenly one of them gritted their teeth and turned to look at Uchiha Polo-chen. There was something in their hand, but suddenly it threw into the sky, and they all headed straight for Kakashi and Meki. Boom! The sky exploded with a loud bang, and an invisible symbol flickered in the sky. Not good. Yuji Baoyuchen exclaimed in surprise, his whole body flashed behind them, grabbed Kakashi and Meki's shoulders, and then took a few hundred steps backwards. Just checked in, the writing will eye in his left eye has evolved to Sangoyu, although he did not acquire any skills, it has also given him a stronger perception. The ninja was almost covered with detonating symbols. Such reckless behavior must be treating oneself like a mobile bomb. The fugitives in war are so terrifying and insane. Since that's the case, then I'll fulfill you. Yuji Baoyuchen pulled out the Wang Quan sword and with just a flick, it instantly pierced through the person's heart. After falling like a kite with a broken string, the huge explosion followed by a shockwave that made it impossible for everyone to open their eyes. Don't be afraid, there are only 3 of them. We have 10 people now. Up. Up. The smoke and dust rolled up by the explosion almost instantly filled the entire scene. 10 black shadows floated together in the smoke and dust, coming side by side, each holding a handful of suffering. At the next moment, 10 painless shots shot straight towards the 3 of them. Although the intensity of these 10 people's shots is not as high as the first level, they are superior in terms of quantity, and they are even more capable of killing in such a dusty environment. This is also a characteristic of their Wind Country Sand Ninja Village. In the environment of yellow sand, they have long been accustomed to how to maintain combat effectiveness in such a dusty environment. The next second, a huge water ball suddenly appeared, then exploded, and a waterfall-like river rushed towards 10 people. Water escape. The art of the great waterfall. Uzi Baoyuchen quickly sealed his seal. In less than a second, all the chakras around him were extracted and gathered in his throat, exploding in an instant. The huge river instantly carried away the smoke and dust, and a small tsunami quickly shot towards the 10 ninjas in the Sand Ninja Village. Not good, hide quickly. One of them, Shangren, was shocked and obviously panicked by everything in front of him. This young man, surprisingly, could make such a terrifying judgment in such a situation. It's too scary. Tuduan, Tuliu Wall. 10 people endured and drank together, their voices neat and clear, indicating that they had been working together for many years. As the words fell, the 10 of them quickly imprinted their hands and suddenly slapped the ground. In front of them, a row of huge earth and rock walls rose from the ground. You know nothing about Yuzibo. Do you still want to block it? Yuji Baoyuchen raised a contemptuous tone at the corner of his mouth and said, "Can you stop it?" Fire escape. Fire dragon flame bullet. Yuji Baoyuchen had already completed his seal and appeared above the waterfall, like a fiery dragon, instantly catching up with the waterfall ahead. The fire dragon flame bullet, named after its fiery appearance, belongs to the advanced ninjutsu of the fire escape ninjutsu. Its power can evaporate the water in a pond in an instant. The remaining momentum of the fire dragon did not diminish, and it directly collided with the great waterfall technique ahead. Hush! Hush! The two blend together, and the originally huge waterfall and dragon disappear, replaced by an endless and majestic sea of water and gas. A huge amount of water vapor rose up and quickly swept across the surface ahead. No, it's not water vapor, it's steam. High-temperature Baidu steam. Sakura Murakami's pupils couldn't help but shrink violently. This move, even if he didn't have to personally experience it, he knew it must be extremely powerful as breaking through an army. But he didn't have time to print anymore. All he can do is cross his arms over his chest, but that's steam. What's the use of everything he does? A tearing sound like frying meat sounded, accompanied by heart-wrenching cries, and all 8 people fell down together. Only 2 are still struggling to support, but it seems that they are also suffering a lot. Kakashi and Meki were completely stunned at this moment. Looking at Yuji Baluachen's gaze, it seemed like he was looking at a monster. Are you proficient in both water escape and fire escape? This guy, was his performance in school always hidden? No wonder Kakashi and Meki have such thoughts. You should know that these 12 people are composed of 4 upper ninjas and 8 middle ninjas from the Sand Ninja village of the Wind Country. Every ninja village in their own country is a pillar of existence. They had never seen a 14-year-old boy who could change the situation and kill 10 people on his own. The situation suddenly changed from 12-on-3 to 3-on-2. Now it's 3-to-2. End of this chapter. Chapter 5, book title Accidentally Drops Out. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5, book title Accidentally Drops Out. The hearts of the remaining 2 upper ninjas were filled with a mixture of unease and shock, but in the end, they were suppressed by fear. 10 minutes ago, they were still chasing that Kiba intelligence officer all the way. What they didn't expect was that the boy he was in contact with had been pretending to be a pig and eating tigers all along. This strength is at least at the level of endurance for elites. I thought the other party was a lamb waiting to be slaughtered, but they suddenly transformed into a hunter holding a shotgun. This huge psychological gap is really uncomfortable. Subsequently, while the 2 of them were enduring it, one of them suddenly lowered his hands and trembled all over before finally falling down. Yuji Baluachen let out a cold snort, disregarding the sword inserted into the ground beside him, and walked straight towards the upper ninja. In the eyes of Shangren, every step of Yuji Baluachen seemed to further distance him from the Grim Reaper. The large drops of cold sweat on the burnt cheek slipped off, and the pain that hit the wound was piercing. Say goodbye, Yuji Baluachen slowly raised his arm. Suddenly, his face changed, and the sudden vibration coming from afar made him suddenly react. Yuji Baluachen gave the last standing person a deep glance and sneered slowly, saying, "I'll spare your life." Then his figure disappeared and disappeared. What are you thinking? Let's go. Yuji Baluachen shouted. As soon as this sound was heard, it immediately woke up the 2 people who were stunned on the side. Quickly followed in the footsteps of Yuji Baluachen. In the blurred vision of the name, the 3 of them fled towards the other side of the forest like stars chasing the moon. Quickly disappeared without a trace. Luochen, haven't seen you for so long, you're so amazing. That person just now had at least the ability to endure, and was killed by your sword like that. Might Kai followed Yuji Baluachen with a surprised and excited expression. With a leap of his left foot and crossing 2 large trees, Yuji Baluachen slowly spoke up, "It's just a stroke of luck." "I don't think it's just luck, but your sword, which I've never seen you use before, has been hidden and kept hidden," Mutki retorted. "Wait, where's your sword?" Metki's face suddenly changed. "Lost." Yuji Baluachen slowly said. "Just an ordinary sword." "That's right, he used an ordinary sword, and what he got from checking in was called the Royal Sword Intention, not the Royal Sword. When in use, simply inject the Royal Sword Intent into a regular sword to temporarily transform it into a Royal Sword. Although the strength may not be as strong as the real Royal Sword, it is also very sufficient." "Don't be sarcastic," Kakashi interrupted. "We need to leave quickly. That guy just sent a signal before he died." Through years of intelligence analysis by Kiba, the level of the signal bomb he fired is not low. We estimate that a large number of enemy ninjas will be chasing us soon. Yuji Baluachen nodded. How far are we from my now? Kakashi remained silent for a moment before slowly speaking up. Far away. Is it far? Yuji Baluachen murmured. This is not very good. The thing that the Uchiha clan is not good at is long-term combat. Of course, there is no need to say more about the existence of Uchiha. Most Uchiha people are still unable to achieve this, and when facing battles, they will want to quickly resolve them. Because Uchiha's blue bar is really the two swords just now almost consumed nearly 30% of his chakra in his body. If there are too many people coming next, it will really be a very troublesome thing. Stop, take a break for a while, Yuji Baluachen stopped and said lightly. No, let's set off immediately. We're still 108,000 miles away from how can we rest? Kakashi immediately declined as soon as he said this. But your body has already started to struggle. Yuji Baluachen looked straight into Kakashi's eyes. Kakashi could deceive others, but he couldn't. After running for dozens of miles, my physical strength had already been overdrawn, which was not decent. You don't have to worry about me, bring the security map back safely. Kakashi gritted his teeth. No way. Matki immediately retorted, we are companions, how could we possibly abandon you and leave? Yuji Baluachen also nodded and said, we need to stay together, we need to walk together. Uchiha clan land. The flag with the Uchiha clan emblem was waving in the wind outside. This ethnic emblem, similar to a fan, is a symbol of honor for the Uchiha clan. A paper fan can make the fire burn more vigorously. Coincidentally, it also refers to the flexible use of fire escape by the Uchiha clan. At the main hall of the Uchiha clan, a middle-aged man sitting cross-legged slowly opened his eyes. Monkey flying sun slaying this guy, he still hasn't given up. Yuji-bo Fuyue sighed lightly. Upon hearing the sound, Yuji-bo Meichin came over, and her beautiful eyes glanced at her before she understood, does he still keep staring at Yuji-bo Luochen? Yuji-bo Fuyue nodded. Upon hearing these words, Yuji-bo Meichin's pretty face was full of displeasure, clearly showing no favoritism towards the third-generation fire shadow ape flying sun slash. This old guy, why are you so scheming? Without any ulterior motives, one cannot be considered a fire shadow, sighed Yuji-bo Fuyue. 3 generations of fire shadow have risen to power, I don't know how many debates they have crossed and how many tricks they have used. Yuji-bo Fuyue is so intelligent. He is the 3rd-generation fire shadow lord and the monkey flying sun slaying. This is to gather and disperse the elites of the Yuji-bo tribe, in order to indirectly weaken their strength. After all, in the past, Uchiha's illustrious reputation on the battlefield would make him tremble with fear even now. The high-ranking political power of Kiba has quietly infiltrated Uchiha. Finally, we're going to get started. Yuji-bo Jishue has been secretly dispatched to the village by Ape Flying Sun Slash, probably for Yuji-bo Luochen. Then quickly ask someone to stop Yuji-bo from stopping the water. Yuji-bo Meichin hurriedly said. How can we stop it? Yuji-bo Fuyue smiled bitterly at the corner of his mouth. Instantly stopping the water, can anyone in our clan catch up now? Let him go. I just hope that Luochen won't be deceived by the so-called will of fire again. Yuji-bo Fuyue sighed, Yuji-bo lost a stop, which is enough. This Uchiha no water, the genius ninja of the Uchiha clan, is now filled with the so-called will of fire. I don't know if he is executing the will of fire or the will of 3 generations, Yuji-bo Fuyue suddenly snorted coldly. In the 3rd Ninja War, Jishue ran on the battlefield with his illusions and instant body techniques, and was known as Instant Body Jishue. His pupil power is so strong that almost everyone in the world of ninja knows it. Unfortunately, Such a genius ninja was infused with a spiritual poison like will of fire in his mind, which destined that one day in the future, he would stand on a different front with this family. End of this chapter. Chapter 6, Signing in for 1,000 years, I was seized by the holy maiden of the demon gate. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6, Signing in for 1,000 years, I was seized by the holy maiden of the demon gate, I casually found a place to rest. As soon as Kakashi and Metki sat down, Yuji Balyuachen disappeared into place. Just as the two were confused, Yuji Balyuachen walked out of the forest with a piece of wood in his hand. Just as the two were confused, Yuji Balyuachen sat on the ground, feeling helpless as he flew out of his sleeve. His sharp blade easily tore open the tree and cut it into the shape he wanted. Quickly, the piece of wood had already been cut into the shape of a sword. Wooden sword. This sword is not hard yet, how can you fight it? Might-Kai roast with a silent face. This wooden sword is probably not as hard as his toothpick. Yuji Balyuachen smiled slightly upon hearing the words and said, I have my own way. After speaking, he picked up the scraps on the side, made a scabbard for the wooden sword, and put it aside before settling down. Kakashi remained silent there, obviously consuming a huge amount of time. The current time is too precious for him, and he needs to do his best to restore his strength. Yuji Balyuachen carefully recalled what Kakashi had just done. This guy's youth doesn't seem to be as cold-blooded as he used to see in anime. However, the third battle has already been carried out to this day, changing the future pattern of the ninja world. The Battle of Kami no Pai Bridge, the embryonic stage of the Fourth Ninja World War, is also getting closer and closer. Whether we can bring the soil back depends on Kakashi's resolute attitude, Yuji Balyuachen secretly thought in his heart. System, generate my personal information panel. Temporarily calmed down, Yuji Balyuachen let out a soft call. As soon as the words fell, familiar mechanical sounds quietly appeared in my mind. Ding! The information panel is currently being generated and is expected to take 3 seconds. Ding! The information panel has been generated. Personal panel name. Yuji Balyuachen. Gender. Male. Age. 14 years old. Rewards obtained through check.in. Royal Sword Intention, 51.3% fused, water escape. Great Waterfall Technique, fire escape. Fire Dragon Flame Bullet, Shadow Clone Technique. At present, I have mastered ninjutsu techniques such as fire escape. The art of huge fireball, fire escape. The art of dragon fire, fire escape. The fire dragon flame bullet, water escape. The art of great waterfall, and the art of shadow separation. The system provides a rating of A+, elite ninja level, 365 days from system refresh. Advanced check.in location. 3 battlefields, low-level check.in location from system refresh. Not yet refreshed, for 1 day, note. The advanced check.in location will only be open for 5 minutes, and will not wait until later. Please go in advance. Ah, time has reset again. As soon as he saw the remaining days on the panel, Yuji Balyuachen couldn't help but roll his eyes. This system is good for everything, but the cooling period for each clock in is also too long. The cooling off period for low-level clocking in is 7 days, while for high-level clocking in, it is 1 year. No wonder every advanced check.in, Yuji Balyuachen is extremely excited. Because on a regular basis, the rewards obtained from a fixed check.in every week are very few and far between. Most of them are chicken ribs that are tasteless to eat and regretful to throw away. If you are unlucky, you will simply get some free roll of yao lamian noodles and a few copper coins. It's not as valuable as his hard work in a day. So compared to the small items obtained, the resources obtained from advanced check.in are particularly precious. His royal sword meaning was obtained 3 years ago when he signed into the Uchiha clan territory. Every advanced check.in will greatly enhance his strength. Especially after obtaining the power of the sword, the strength increased exponentially. And this time, the advanced check.in also increased the integration of royal power and sword spirit to 50%. Although the fusion rate has only reached 50%, Yuji Baoyuchen has long been different from before. Not to mention anything else, his expertise in swordsmanship alone has already surpassed his peers, and even the entire wood leaf can be compared to him by no more than 5 fingers. And the 5% increase in fusion degree this time is to direct his power from an ordinary level of upper ninja to an elite upper ninja. You should know that even if a person is practicing hard for a lifetime, it is difficult for them to reach the elite level of endurance. But a high-level check.in can easily enhance one's strength. May I ask, who doesn't envy? But Yuji Baoyuchen knows that his current strength is still far from enough. After all, what he is facing is the abyss and giant mouth of the high-level Kiba. Coming into this world, he was initially very sad because he was born as a member of the Uchiha clan. He loved watching the Naruto anime very much in his past life, and naturally understood Uchiha very well, although he had inexplicable talent and strength. But it seems that family affection has never appeared in this family, but in fact, it's not like that. After coming to this family, the feeling it brought him was not as terrifying and cold as he saw on TV. Except for a few members who are cruel and aggressive, their ability to right will eyes has become pathological, and the entire family still maintains a thriving vitality. Although Yuji Baoyuchen is considered an outsider, he still has an extremely deep emotional attachment to this family. So, in order to develop his family, he also began to hide himself and never easily show his strength in front of outsiders, which was also to relax his vigilance in the high-level management of Kiba. After all, the original owner of this body once made the entire wooden leaf remember his name. Someone has arrived. Yuji Baoyuchen frowned slightly, but suddenly felt relieved and turned his head to look deep into the nearby forest. Upon hearing a sudden sound from Yuji Baoyuchen, Might Kai and Kakashi also stood up from the ground, thinking they were enemies. The two of them leaned against their backs, ready to fight at any time. It's not an enemy. He doesn't have any murderous aura on his body, and I'm very familiar with this aura, said Yuji Baoyuchen with a delicate hint. Did Kiba send someone to pick us up? Matki guessed. It shouldn't be. Yuji Baoyuchen shook his head. Gradually, the shadows in the forest began to overlap, and a person broke through the shadows and emerged from the darkness. A tall and thin man slowly walked towards him, looking at his attire. A dark high-necked short-sleeved top and triangular protective gear, wearing matching pants and leggings. There is a Uchiha ethnic emblem on the back of the clothes and a small tie-dao on the back. Even if it turns into dust, Uzi Baoyuchen can recognize him. Yuji Bo stops water. Yuji Bo Luochen said expressionlessly, "It's you. What are you doing here? Don't be safe, brother Luochen." Yujibwa smiled politely. Uchiha stop water. Meki widened his eyes. Is he Uchiha stop water? Is this the instant water stopping master? On the battlefield, the speed is second only to the instant stop of the yellow flash wave Feng Shui Gate. Known as the fastest man in the younger generation. End of this chapter. Chapter 7, It's very beautiful, everyone go and read it. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7, It's very beautiful, everyone go and read it. What's up? Yuji Baoyuchen said expressionlessly. He doesn't have a good impression of this Uchiha water stop. I am entrusted by the third generation of the Fire Shadow Lord to take over the task of escorting the defense map. Yujibwa put on a cat mask and spoke with an unquestionable aura. What about the task change order? The matter arose in a hurry and was not brought in time. Haha. Yuji Baoyuchen snorted coldly, I'm sorry, you probably won't be able to take this strategic defense map today. You don't believe me, Yujibwa's tone suddenly became cold. I only believe in myself, Yuji Baoyuchen replied coldly. How can he be allowed to be arrogant here? Yuzhibo Luochen looked straight into Yuzhibo Jishue's eyes, with a strong attitude that even made Yuzhibo Jishue suspect. Is this still the silent young man he had seen in the Uchiha tribe's land? Suddenly, Yuzhibo's face changed and he glanced at Yuzhibo Luochen before coldly saying, "I'll settle accounts with you later." I will return this sentence to you in its original form. Yuzhibo Luochen and Yuzhibo Jishue turned around together. In the distance, hundreds of black dots as big as ants are rapidly approaching. So much. Might Kai exclaimed in surprise. I guess there will be more in the future, Yuzhibo Luochen shrugged. It seems that this defense map is quite important. These guys from the Wind Country just like to fight with everyone. Do you want the one on the left or the one on the right? Said Yuzhibo Jishue. Male left and female right. I want the left, replied Yuzhibo Luochen. You have a smooth tongue. Kakashi and Kai, could you please provide support on both sides? Yuzhibo Jishue turned to look at Kakashi. Okay, Kakashi nodded deeply towards Uchiha Shizuki. Up. Yuzhibo stopped water and let out a loud shout, and his figure disappeared instantly. Are you afraid that others will be faster than you? Yuzhibo Luochen rolled his eyes and followed closely, disappearing in place. At the moment when Yuzhibo stopped water and disappeared, his entire eyes underwent a change in the next moment. 1 Goyu, 2 Goyu, 3 Goyu. His pupils suddenly transformed into the shape of San Goyu, and his Sharingan instantly opened in the troops of the San Ninja village in the Wind Country. The Pathfinder ninja at the forefront suddenly felt a sense of danger approaching. Almost in an instant, a golden light appeared, and a young man appeared in front of the main army at an unknown time. I saw a flash of golden light in his hand, and the two people in front of him were instantly beheaded and flew 100 meters away without a trace. What kind of person? Who's here? Buzz. A sound similar to the sound of swords rang out, followed by an overwhelming momentum that spread from the person not far away 10 meters away. The aura of a king on that person seemed to flow with the air, almost instantly spreading throughout the entire venue. Everyone, in that moment, seemed to feel like their heart had paused for a moment, so strong. What kind of person is this? His breath makes me a bit breathless. The ninjas in the San Ninja village of the Wind Country are from this recently oppressive category, and in the face of such a situation, the vast majority of people's legs and stomachs have started to tremble. A team of hundreds of people, surprisingly not as imposing as a single person. What a humiliating thing this is. Sure enough, Yuzhibo Luochen has been hiding his strength and is so much stronger than me. He truly deserves to be the object of my pursuit. Might Kai ambushed on the side, excited to see such a scene. It's really strong. Kakashi nodded on the side without any slight wrinkles. The pupils of Yuzhibo's water stopped suddenly shrink. Is this guy so strong? Quickly, his Sharingan locked onto the golden long sword in the hands of Yuzhibo Luochen. Is that the sword? Yuzhibo murmured in silence. With such a powerful momentum, he even felt suffocated. In that moment it was as if he had seen the Emperor. Like the aura of an emperor, resembling the essence of royal power. He had only seen the same majestic and towering momentum from the third generation of Lei Ying. Under this imposing pressure, the ninjas across from each other looked at the figure of Uchiha Polo-chen, and their faces changed greatly. They are just ninjas from Saren village, and have they ever seen this kind of murderous aura that seems like substance? A 14-year-old boy suddenly turned into a hellish god of death. Among the reinforcement troops, half of them were newly joined soldiers, all of whom were Xianin, and their actual combat experience was completely lacking. Under this pressure, some people have even passed out. Before they could fight, the opponent had almost lost half of their troops. There are indeed some tricks, no wonder the third-generation master has been thinking about you and not letting go. Yuzhibo Jishue chuckled lightly, it seems that I still underestimate you. In this way, the task of probing your strength this time doesn't seem so boring. Yuzhibo Jishue turned his head and in his direction, another team was also rushing towards him. It seems that before I teach you the will of fire, we still need to deal with these guys. Yuji Baoyuchen calmly looked down at the reinforcement troops in front of him. On the contrary, his current mood was still a bit excited. Because he has confidence in this battle. Although Yuzhibo Jishui dislikes that guy, Yuzhibo Luochen also knows that he can now activate Susaneng. Dealing with such a small amount of reinforcement troops is still a matter of holding hands. Moreover, Yuji Baoyuchen also needs such a fight. For the past decade, he has been silently improving his strength. The strength has indeed increased, but it is unclear which latitude he chose. Improving oneself blindly will inevitably lead to a deviation in one's control of strength. Just like him now, he doesn't know how strong the sword he swung with all his might is. He now needs sandbags, a huge number of sandbags to measure his strength. It is obvious that the reinforcements in front of him perfectly meet his needs. Although his fusion with the sword intent of the monarchy is only 50% now, his power is still not to be underestimated. The sword of royal power embodies the aura of an emperor. Invincible under one person and above 10,000 people, lonely. With the sword of Wang Quan in hand, one person can withstand 10,000 cavalry. Now, why be afraid of these 100 people in front of you? As long as he controls the consumption of chakra well, he can still easily deal with this group of troops with few upper ninjas. Suddenly, a gleam appeared in Yuji Baoyuchen's eyes. Fire escape. The art of Heo Wokyu. The chakra inside the body condensed and was instantly mobilized. Yuji Baoyuchen quickly formed a seal and suddenly spat out a huge and incomparable fireball from his mouth, pressing against the ground and pushing towards the 100-man army on the opposite side. The majestic waves of fire instantly caused panic, and in order to avoid this move, the entire army began to split and scatter. End of this chapter. Chapter 8, If I Don't Go, I'll Be True to You. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8, If I Don't Go, I'll Be True to You. Subsequently, the Sword of Thrones seemed to have crossed the sky, shuttling freely among the reinforcements, and surprisingly, it was as easy as shopping. Wherever the sword light passes by, the ninjas in Sarin village collapse to the ground with a burst of a balloon. In less than 10 minutes, the entire army was already depleted, and it was truly a scene of blood flowing into a river. Even some weaker ones, when they come into contact with the Sword of Throne, unexpectedly explode. The scattered pieces of meat scattered on the faces of the surviving ninjas further increased their fear. The 100-strong army just now has been killed by Yuji Baoyuchen, leaving only over 10 people. Moreover, he only used 20% of the chakras. Kakashi and Might Kai on one side also performed exceptionally well, mainly because the reinforcements were mostly at the medium ninja level. For them, it was as simple as cutting vegetables. All the remaining people, let's keep them as prisoners, said Yuji Baoyuchen casually as he returned to Kakashi's side. Kakashi nodded, and after a brief conversation, the three of them tied up the remaining 10 or so people and threw them aside. Perhaps scared by the strength that Yuji Baoyuchen had just demonstrated, those people were all stunned, and there was not much effort involved in tying this matter up. You are stronger than I expected. Yuzhibo Jishui has arrived behind Yuzhibo Luochen at some point. You are not the only one in the Uchiha clan who is powerful, Uchiha Luochen snorted coldly. I know what you mean when you're here today. You want to fight. You have this intention, Yuzhibo sneered at Jishui. What are you doing? Kakashi immediately interrupted. The foreign enemy hasn't finished cleaning up yet, are you two going to fight? Kakashi frowned and turned to look at Yuzhibo Jishui. We are all ninjas of Konoha. Do we have to fight each other on the battlefield? You can't handle my affairs. Yuzhibo Jishui didn't even glance at Kakashi. My responsibility is to complete the instructions of the third-generation adults, and I must bring back this defense map. Don't even think about it. The anger in Kakashi's eyes grew stronger. What he was most worried about happened. This Yuzhibo Jishui was already an enemy and a friend, and the two of them, Luo Chen and Jishui, were not usually dealt with in the Yuzhibo tribe. This guy really wants to take action against Uchiha Polo Chen. I have long heard that Yuzhibo Jishui has always been a unique and independent person, and seeing him today goes beyond his understanding. In order to complete the task assigned by my superiors, I actually wanted to take action against my teammates during the national war battlefield. It is said that teammates are the backs of ninjas. How could anyone dare to give them their backs? No wonder his tasks are all completed alone. Just Kakashi gave him a deep glance. Can such a ninja still be called a ninja? Then please go through my level first. Kakashi's tone also cooled down. And me too. Maikai's face was also full of anger on the side. The Wind Country ninja bound on one side instantly became excited. They originally thought these four people were a high-level team of Kiba, but they didn't expect it to be. And it seems that there are still differences, even the ninjas from our own country have to be killed. These four people, each one of whom they cannot afford, can easily kill their existence. But with this move, their escape became possible. They were bound with ordinary ropes, and as long as they were both injured in the fight, they could take the opportunity to escape. The information they saw today is definitely an extremely terrifying intelligence. Such a terrifying team cannot be simply to eliminate their small reinforcements. What do you mean? Are you trying to support him? Yuzhibo Jishui seemed to have heard some big joke and turned to look at Yuzhibo Luochen. I am 2 years older than you, so I also allow you to bring 2 helpers. It's fair, right? You seem very confident, said Yuzhibo Luochen expressionlessly. It seems that this one must be fought, but according to the relationship between Yuzhibo Jishui and the third-generation old man, if this fight is fought, one's own strength will definitely be exposed to the third-generation old man. It seems that either we can find a reason for a ceasefire ourselves, or a hint of malice flashed in Yuzhibo Luochen's eyes. It was just that he, accidentally, killed Yuzhibo Jishui. Yuzhibo Jishui looked into Yuzhibo Luochen's eyes, and for some reason, he couldn't help but shiver. Because in an instant, the chill in Yuzhibo Luochen's eyes actually pierced his heart. It's like a different person, even giving him an unbeatable feeling. It must be an illusion, he's different from others, you two are separate. This is a battle between me and him, Yuzhibo Luochen said word by word. But Meki became anxious. He is a Yuzhibo Jishui. When he became famous, he didn't even have time to endure it. This time participating in the mission, even though Yuzhibo Luochen showed impressive strength, he still believes that no matter how fast Yuzhibo Luochen has improved in the past decade, he cannot be a match for Yuzhibo Luochen. After all, while you were practicing various ninjutsu techniques, he had already begun the top-level mission of assassinating high-level officials from various countries. It is not a hierarchical existence at all. Just now, the reinforcement troops on the side of Yuzhibo Jishui had all fallen without even seeing what was going on. Make a bet, if you lose this battle, put yourself under the command of 3 generations of adults. What if I win? Yuzhibo Luochen sneered. You can't win. Yuzhibo looked at him with absolute certainty. He has been diligent in learning and practicing since childhood, and has been on the battlefield for almost 10 years. Now, he has gained the ultimate power of the Uchiha family. This powerful force was bestowed upon him, and he almost forgot what it felt like to fail. Don't say too much. Yuzhibo Luochen looked at him sarcastically and said, Genius. Who isn't? Then I'll let you see it. Yuzhibo's tone suddenly increased, faster than his voice. His whole body surprisingly moved like an instant and had already arrived behind Yuzhibo Luochen. Without any hesitation, he picked up the bitterness in his hand and fiercely stabbed it. Be careful. Kakashi's heart almost reached her throat. Instant body technique. The word flashed through Kakashi's mind in an instant. Yuzhibo's famous stunt of stopping water was surprisingly intense from the beginning, both of whom were brothers of the same clan. What is the deep hatred between these two people? This Azibo Jishue is so disrespectful of martial arts and has resorted to the trick of sneaking attacks from behind. End of this chapter. Chapter 9, Signing in for 1,000 years, I was seized by the holy maiden of the demon gate. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 9, Signing in for 1,000 years, I was seized by the holy maiden of the demon gate. Faced with the sudden sense of danger, Yuji Baoyuchen smiled coldly, without any panic in his heart. His movements did not slow down, and he turned to his side. The wooden sword in his hand swung lightly, becoming even more indestructible when wrapped in the sword intent of the royal power. Simple sword lifting and swinging. Seemingly slow, but it cleverly blocked the attack of Yuzhibo Jishue, resisting Kouwu. At the same time, it turned sideways and swung out a sword, quickly making a counterattack. The whole action was not dragging any mud or water, and it didn't seem like something that a 14-year-old boy could do. This sword, without any warning, startled Yuzhibo Jishue. Unconsciously, it blocked him, and a huge force came. Yuzhibo Jishue let out a groan, and he took 2 steps back to stabilize his figure. Obviously, he had suffered a small loss. Click. Click. The first sound sounded, it was painless. The second sound was from the big tree behind Uchiha's water stop. Yuzhibo held on to Kouwu's hand tightly, trembling delicately as he lost his voice and said, "A ninja in the body technique." The sword just now contained 2 energies, the first being unstoppable and the second being dodged by him. The big tree was struck by the sword and instantly split into 2 pieces, falling down with a loud bang. The Kouwu in his hand was covered in cracks due to the previous block, and it was obviously scrapped and cannot be used anymore. So sharp. Yuzhibo Jishue looked at Yuzhibo Luochen with a monster-like expression. At the same time, he was also extremely afraid of the golden long sword in his hand. I didn't expect him to even practice body techniques, and his expertise is not inferior to ninjutsu. This strength can even be compared to some physical ninjas. Adding this divine sword is like adding wings to a tiger. Their Uchiha clan has been proud of their mastery of Sharingan, illusion, and ninjutsu for generations, but how could a monster like Uchiha Luochen emerge? In other words, most Uchiha people rely on skills and illusions to deal damage. But the feeling that Yuji Baoyuchen gave him was exactly the opposite. This guy seemed to have a regular attack with a built-that IN critical strike, and he didn't seem to be able to use those ninjutsus. In the face of absolute strength, one cannot escape the outcome of being broken and annexed. Yuji Baoyuchen did not speak. In his current state, it seems that he is indeed a semi-individual ninja. After all, his strongest strength is given by the Sword of Thrones. But don't think this will defeat me. Yuzhibo Jishue lowered his head and glanced at Kouwu, then casually threw it aside. Strong in strength, but that's all. He has encountered countless martial arts ninjas, and naturally understands the shortcomings of martial arts ninjas. Although he has extremely fast speed and strength, as long as he avoids hand-to-hand combat, he is a wingless bald eagle, driven by brute force everywhere. But will Yuji Baoyuchen do as he thinks? No, not really. Before Yuzhibo could take any action, Yuzhibo Luochen had already arrived in front of him and raised the royal sword in his hand with a single strike. Yuzhibo stopped water and cursed inwardly, forcing the small sword from his waist to be pulled out. Now, he is too passive and can only block it blindly. A sound of weapons colliding with steel rang out. Yuzhibo Jishue was bounced away by a huge force for several tens of meters, but he finally passively opened up the situation, and he had already reacted in an instant. Stopping water is truly stopping water. After all, with nearly 10 years of combat experience, he knows how to quickly gain the upper hand during the gap in battle. Fire escape. The art of Heohulong. The terrifying chakra erupted in an instant, condensed in his mouth. Then, when the seal was completed, a huge fire dragon quickly spewed out of his mouth and swung towards the Uzi Baoyuo dust with lightning speed. Yuji Baoyuchen was not afraid at all. He held his sword in both hands, twisted his calves slightly around his body, and the pitcher suddenly slashed away with a sword. Break it. With this sword, everything seemed to have come to a standstill. The sound of the wind around is gone, only the sound of a sword. Miso. In the next moment, a loud bombardment sounded out loud. That huge fire dragon was unexpectedly cut in half and slowly dissipated behind Yuji Boyuachen. How could it be? Yujibu's pupils contracted abruptly. This is ninjutsu. One sword breaks through ninjutsu. Do you want to talk like that? Damn it, I didn't expect Yuji Boyuachen's strength to be so strong. Might Kai exclaimed on the side, but he still asked with some concern, Kakashi, do you think either of them can win? It's hard to say. Kakashi looked at the two people in the distance with a serious expression. Neither of them has shown their true strength yet. The attack just now can only be considered a probe. Ah. Is this kind of attack a probe? Meki looked incredulous. Kakashi nodded. I worked with Yukibo Daitu for a while and got to know him better. Legend has it that he has gained the true strength of the Yukibo clan and is said to have the power to open mountains and crack the earth. Opening up mountains and splitting the ground. This is too exaggerated, isn't it? This is just a rumor, Kakashi replied. I'm just praying that no matter who wins, don't take down the assassin. How could it be possible? Just one sword broke through my ninjutsu. Yuzibo's mouth twitched at the corner of his mouth. It must be such a strong physical fitness. This guy doesn't seem like a member of the Uchiha clan, so surprised. A sword from heaven and earth. The voice of Yuji Boyuachen suddenly came from my ear. He no longer knew when he appeared behind Yujibo Jishue, and the raised royal sword had already been fiercely swung down. At the moment when the sword struck Yuzibo Jishue suddenly turned into a white mist. Then with a loud snap, a wooden stake was split in half and fell to the ground. Yuzibo Jishue has disappeared. Stand-up technique. Obviously, Uchiha Shizuki released his stunt double earlier in just a few seconds of reaction time. Fire escape. Phoenix flower claw red. At the same time, the sound of water stopping behind Yuji Boyuachen suddenly sounded. And it's in the air. In the air, Yuzibo Jishue threw a sword in his hand towards Luo Chen on the ground. This sword in hand has already been combined with Huadun. This is a derivative technique of fire escape Phoenix fire technique. The new fire escape technique formed by the flames of the Phoenix fire entwined around the sword in hand, when hit, will cause dual damage to the enemy's fire escape and sword in hand, and also have a significant interference effect on the enemy's line of sight. If Yuzibo Jishue is willing, he can also attach flames to the sword in his hand, and it will explode when hit. It can also be used in conjunction with the Wind Demon Sword Shadow Windmill to enhance its power. By using this level of ninjutsu, it means that Uchiha no Kami is starting to face his opponent in front of him. Due to the strength of Yuji Boyuachen, he was forced to exert all his strength. End of this chapter. Chapter 10, Signing in for 1,000 years, I was seized by the Holy Maiden of the Demon Gate. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10, Signing in for 1,000 years, I was seized by the Holy Maiden of the Demon Gate, huh? A subtle smile appeared at the corner of Yuji Boyuachen's mouth. Later, when Kuwu smashed it down, it swept over with a strong red flame, and Uzi Boyuochen moved. One sword. Just one sword. Heaven and earth sword. Sword flash. The bitterness that flew down split into two in an instant, passing over the body of Yuji Boyuachen, and Yuji Boyuachen also jumped into the air in the next moment. Due to the immense power of the ninjutsu released by Uchiha Shizuki, even if the sword in his hand was destroyed, a wave of fire instantly rose on the ground, and the entire grassland ignited a raging fire. Disappeared. How could it be? Under the investigation of his Sharingan, Yuji Boyuachen disappeared into the human world as if evaporating. Yuzhibo Jishue was taken aback and looked around, only feeling a sense of crisis coming from behind. Subconsciously lifting the knife to block, Yuji Baoyuchen's sword had already slammed down fiercely. He is a member of the Uchiha tribe and naturally knows the weakness of the Sharingan. If he wants to crack it, he just needs to avoid being seen. His back is his weakest point. Clack. This is the sound of swords colliding with each other. Subsequently, the huge shock wave even blew away the flames on the ground. Centered around Uchiha water stop, the flames on the ground were instantly shaken to one side, and a huge concentric circle emerged on the ground, even the grass was rolled up and disappeared. Boom. The loud noise can even be heard from 10 miles away. Yuzhibo's forehead has started to sweat. For him, relying solely on his physical body to withstand the sword of Yuji Baoyuchen can only be considered as barely strong, and even if he can withstand it, the sword in his hand will definitely not last a few times. Yuzhibo scolded in his heart, but his eyes were filled with shock. This Yuji Baoyuchen has given him too many surprises. Everyone knows that Uchiha's physical fitness is notoriously poor, but this guy, relying on his excellent body as a ninja, has no room for him to use ninjutsu. It's just a rhythm of hand-to-hand combat with him. If it weren't for his name on the family tree of the Uchiha clan, Uchiha Jishue would suspect that Uchiha Luochen was an abandoned baby picked up by the Uchiha clan. Yuji wave flow. Sword leaping flame. Yuzhibo exerted a fierce force to stop the water and bounced Yuzhibo Lingfeng away, then his body disappeared. Instant body technique. At the next moment, 4 Uchiha waves came from different directions and used their samurai swords to cut out a 7-foot-long flame blade. Yuji Bo Luochen's gaze froze, and the Sharingan quietly opened. In his sight, the 3 clones had already been destroyed, leaving only the body of Yuji Bo Jishue. Oh, I found you. He closed his eyes and the royal sword in his hand suddenly lit up, emitting a golden light, scorching like the sun. The previous confrontation with the enemy was all about probing, so this strike, Yuji Baoyuchen, is the next killer. Lifting the sword, with a bow-like step, Wang Quan's sword slashed out a sword edge and collided head-on with one of the flame blades of the Uzi Wave water stop, although it exploded violently. After the flame blade shattered, Uchiha remained calm and planned to continue sealing. But he didn't have a chance when he used his teleportation technique. Yuji Bo Luochen instantly came to Yuji Bo Jishue's face and swung out his sword. Under the unbelievable face of Yuzhibo Jishue, there was a loud explosion. With a popping sound, Yuzhibo stopped water and flew out 10 meters away, crashing into the smoke and dust without a trace. The ground around is also completely sunken, like a deep crater on the moon, with Uchiha Polo standing in the center. Outside the crater, the fire is still raging wildly. Chimu Kakashi and Might-Kai were also shuttling through the forest at this moment. In the battle just now, their movements were too loud, and if they stayed here again, they might also be affected. Who won? Kakashi, did you see it? Meki rushed anxiously towards the crater. The last sound was made by a sword's edge, and it should be that Uchiha Polo-chan won, Kakashi analyzed calmly. Yuji Baoyuchen actually won. So strong. Does his current strength reach the level of elite tolerance? Kakashi nodded confidently and said, absolutely, and most elite ninjas are likely not his opponents. I really don't know how he spent these 10 years. How did you make such rapid progress? Although he also did not want to believe that his peers, Yuji Baoyuchen, could possess such strength, on the surface of all results, this was the most realistic outcome. Water escape. The art of the great waterfall. On the other hand, Yuji Baoyuchen specifically used water escape to extinguish the flames around him. Due to this huge pit, after the fire is extinguished, water will soon accumulate here, and it seems that in 10 minutes, it will be filled up to form an artificial lake. Has my teleportation technique been broken? Was it broken by this ignorant and incompetent guy? At this moment, Yuji Baoyuchen had already put away the wooden sword. Due to the loss of the royal sword intention, the golden royal sword instantly degenerated into the form of a wooden sword. Stop fighting, let's have a sparring later when we have time. Yuji Baoyuchen checked himself and found that besides being contaminated with some dust, the strategic defense map and some other items were still intact. This Yuzhibo Jishui is still too arrogant, otherwise he wouldn't have won so easily. Stop me. A shout of anger echoed from the smoke and dust, and a painless sword suddenly shot out and headed straight towards the back of Yuji Baoyuchen. Yuji Baoyuchen tilted his head and dodged cool. How did you find my true self? Yuzhibo stood up unsteadily, completely breaking through his defenses and roaring in anger. With you alone, how could you possibly? His move, even if encountering Thunder Shadow, did not make the opponent break it so easily. How could it be like this? His proud instant technique was easily broken by a boy even younger than himself. This is something he cannot accept. Yuji Baoyuchen's face remained expressionless, and the black pupils in his eyes suddenly dispersed, 1, 2, and 3. Because I have the same eyes as you. Same. Ha ha ha. Yuzhibo Jishui seemed to have heard a joke and burst out laughing. Then his face suddenly turned cold. Then I'll show you how much stronger your eyes are, just like yours. A red light suddenly cooled in the smoke. The pupils of Yuzhibo's water stop quickly changed, and between the clouds and flowing water, they transformed into Sangoyu, which was fused together by a force from the underworld, forming a sword-like pattern in his hand. Kaleidoscope writing will I. Yes, Yuzhibo's water vapor has rapidly deteriorated. At this moment, he no longer cared about his usual gentle demeanor and looked a bit crazy. End of this chapter.